Alabama for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Chairman Green.
Two, maybe.
We'll go
no, 5 minutes for his.
We'll go quick. Mr. Desmond, you recently wrote that millions of local taxpayer dollars have been diverted to cover the cost associated with the mass immigration of asylum seeking immigrants, money that could have been better spent on our residents and vital services. Like you, I have serious concerns about the burden communities face as a consequence of this administration's border crisis, especially small and rural communities. News outlets in Alabama have reported that several communities have expressed concern over a steady increase in Haitian immigrants, especially in rural areas with stretched thin resources. I've heard this very sentiment myself. There are countless examples of this administration's policies and failures that have gotten us to this point. One that has come to the forefront, and of course it's Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, which at the end of July this year had paroled over 500,000 migrants into the United States. I sent my concerns about the CHNV to Secretary Mayorkas over a month ago. I wish I had an answer to share here today, but I have yet to receive a response from the Secretary. Barring that, Mr. Desmond, you unfortunately have firsthand experience with the border crisis this administration has brought on all of us. Can you speak to the cost your community has incurred as a result of the surge of migrants and how it has impacted the services provided to your residents?
Well, thank you. The cost it is kind of hard to monetize because there's so many different agencies and so many different elements to it. But I can tell you specifically the San Diego County itself, we spent $6 million to set up a migrant receiving center for those being dropped here. And we only had it open for 4 months because we ran out of money. And yes, that money could have been spent on our roads, infrastructure, and parks. But we also have our hospital systems. Many people come across the border, they're injured because of their long journey. And I'm sure most of you have seen YouTube videos of people dropping their children or their loved ones over the fence. Many people have broken limbs, things like that. So we have many paramedic calls that actually go to the border. We also have fire calls. When people come over in the cold of night, they'll burn just about anything they can get their hands on to stay warm, which is, I understand. But we all have fire calls and potentially fires and structures that catch fire along the border. And also, just kind of the fear factor itself of people driving boats up onto our beaches and just walking unimpeded into our communities. So monetarily, also our San Diego airport has migrants sleeping and staying there. So that hurts our, we're a tourist town. That hurts our tourism. And you see migrants sleeping in the airport coming and going. So there's many, many factors. I don't have an exact number, but I know it's in the several millions of dollars that is costing our local taxpayers, and that money should be staying in San Diego County, not being spent on migrant and immigration issues. That's the purview of the federal government.
I understand what you're talking about. I served 26 years in local government, 40 years as a firefighter EMT. I know firsthand what you're talking about, and I appreciate you being here. I also find it ironic that those responsible for this situation that you're in today, Vice President Harris, Secretary Mayorkas, are two of California's finest. It sends a clear message to every American that if they had allowed this to happen in their own communities, if they don't care about what's happening in their own backyards, why would they care about what's happening in Alabama? I think the evidence is obvious. Mr. Desmond, you also mentioned witnessing mass street releases, which buses dropped off hundreds and thousands of illegal aliens at a time in your communities, many of whom have no idea where they are, where they're going, and it's not just happening in California. What advice would you give to other communities, local leaders, county commissioners, mayors, city councils facing this exact situation throughout our country?
Well, please speak up and stop it from happening. I mean, there's not much we can do because we actually, when they started the drop-offs back in 2022, it was like 3 days before Christmas, we got a heads up that the Border Patrol was we're at capacity, and we're going to be dropping migrants at our transit stations. We had to make sure that, our shelters nearby were not going to be impacted. We had to make sure local police was there. One of the drop-off stations didn't even have bathrooms, so we had to make sure all those types of facilities were there and available. And local communities, small cities and communities don't have the resources to immediately write those kinds of checks. So I beg and plead and ask, the federal government to stop this. And we all want to have an immigration system that works. And I take offense to the sheriff's racist comments made earlier. But we need a system that works. And I really think the focus should be on vetting the people that come across the border. Most people want to be here and they want to work here. I get that. But we got to be able to vet and make sure we keep the bad people out.
Thank you. Would it be fair to say that the Biden-Harris administration's policies have better served the interest of criminal cartels than the American people?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I yield back.